Persona 3 came out in 2006 and marked the separation of Persona and the Shin Megami Tensei games that they were inspired from. It's a personal favorite of mine thanks to its memorable cast, great story, and amazing soundtrack. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Persona by now thanks to a little indie game called Persona 5 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. If you haven't played any of the Persona games, I highly suggest that you do. They're very fun, and this video may contain spoilers for the entirety of the series. As a reminder, Persona 3 is divided into two sections. One is a school simulator, and the other is an RPG exploration where you blow out your brain, kill the bad fetch blob named Shadows. Some people were put off by the edge originally, but many others, such as myself, love the game and all of its flaws. And boy does it have some flaws. However, through all of these flaws, one in particular puzzled me about the game, more so than any other. And that would be Tartarus.
What's that? Sounds like toothpaste.
Oh Junpei, you idiot. Never change. But today I wanted to focus on fixing some of the flaws of tartar sauce, and I have decided to do that by splitting Tartarus into segments. These are the kinds of changes I would like to see if the game was ever remade, but that decision is left to the phantom thief of our wallets named Atlas. So let's start off with an easy one, like...
One enemy detected.
Alright, wait, before Persona 3 fans send me to the next dimension with their comments, let me explain myself. When I'm talking about the music, I am not talking about the clean battle theme known as Mass Destruction, or Wiping All Out, depending on which version you play. I'm talking about the theme that plays through the entirety of Pop-Tart. You know the one. Kinda goes something like... To the skeptical, some might say that something as small as the theme shouldn't be a setback for a game. No! That's before they realize there are more than 100 floors, and not once does the theme change until you hop into a battle. And sadly, even those themes get a bit hard to listen to as well, especially after 100 plus floors. So what do we do to fix it? Well, that's simple enough. We add some more music. We know it's definitely possible for every block or so to have its own theme, thanks to Palaces and Persona 4's dungeons. To keep the mysterious theme of Tuna Salad, we could have some sort of jazz, or keep up with Persona 3's more hardcore aesthetic, we could have something more akin to the rock music. Some vocals could be nice too, just as a little icing to the cake. I know that it's not the biggest deal, and the music's not bad by any means, but I would love to see these changes, if it were remade so I could get something nicer to look forward to when I revisit Tartarus. With that being said, let's move on to something a bit more tough to cover. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a broader subject. When I'm talking about the design, I mean the length and the mechanics in Tartarus that are weird. Starting off with the length.
That's quite big. Impressive.
Yeah, so the biggest issue of the tower is that it's super long. It was intentionally stretched out to give the game more playability, and this is a huge downer on the gameplay because it becomes monotonous and fast. It makes you want to put off Tartarus to the very end, and to be honest, there isn't really a reason not to. You can always just go to the top floor without fighting anybody and just grind on the guys one floor under until you're ready. Nothing is stopping you from doing this either. The game has the Reaper, but it's so easy to avoid him that there's not really an incentive. So we got two big things to fix, the amount of floors and the way you go through Fruit Tart. So let's take a page out of Persona 4's book and introduce puzzles. Now, the viewer might be thinking to themselves, how are there going to be puzzles if the floors are always randomly generated? Well, we got Persona 4 to thank for that answer. P4 figured out a good balance between randomly generated rooms and rooms designed with a puzzle. I don't see why the same thing can't be said about Tartarus. The puzzles could be just one per moon boss or have a bunch of puzzles scattered around that are relatively short. Puzzles would benefit Tower Upgrade in 3 major ways. 1. Gives the player incentive to explore, and it makes Tartarus just that much more interesting. New puzzles, new loot, new enemies, what else could there be? 2. It makes players have to encounter shadows way more often, making Tartarus a lot more fun and allowing them to enjoy the battle system. And 3. It allows us to shorten the number of floors, but make the individual floors longer. This way, Tartarus doesn't seem as long, even though it might be just the same length, if not a little shorter. But there are other ways to go around the issue, like making more blocks so that there are shorter floors and more spread out. But I think this solution makes it more interesting, but keeps enough of itself to make it unique. We could also take a more direct approach and make the puzzles feel more like Persona 5's palaces, but I think that would go too much against the random generation of Tartarus and make Tartarus lose what makes it. Because the floors have been elongated, let's position the camera a little bit closer to the player as well, like in Persona 5. This helps create a sense of running through a maze and being smaller to the tower. You could also add some structures that are randomly generated to give some more wonder to the exploration, making it different each time. Okay, let's move on to some of the more niche mechanics of the game. Starting off, the teleporters that are randomly generated through the tower are really dumb. They could be replaced with safe rooms or just kept. There isn't really a loss or a win to them because you usually just go through the tower until you get to the boss and there's a safe room pretty much, so The next thing is the Reaper. Since we decided to make the floors longer, the Reaper becomes an actual threat to the game. Wow. So let's say that the Reaper takes on average around 10 minutes to appear. This includes time spent in menus and in battle. This puts some real pressure onto fights and to make decisions, but it still allows the player to make smart choices and they don't feel punished for it. It is only a small change, but I think it would make him a lot more important and interesting to the game. And that takes care of what I consider to be the issues with the design of Tartarus. So now that we have a better tower, let's fill it with some better enemies. Spicy Tamale shadows are very interesting to the game. Unlike previous games 1 and 2, the shadows were unique from the personas you had. This was due to the new way of getting personas through shuffle time minigames and not befriending them. Persona 5 dipped its toes back into the befriending idea with shadows, but I want to keep the original shadows from Persona 3 since they give it a lot more distinction from the other games. Instead, let's borrow some of the unique types that P5 offers. These are the Psychic skills and the Nuclear skills. These would give a huge and wider variety of enemy types, as well as all the Persona types you can choose from. I think the gun weaknesses from Persona 5 make it very unique, and we already have Bash and Pierce in Persona 3, so let's just take the spells that they introduced to keep things simpler, and to give each game its respective look and feel. So now that we have a lot of varying types, let's get some new shadows to put them on. For the most part, there were very few models of shadows in Persona 3. They usually just reskinned an older model, then called it a day for Tartarus. Let's fix this by adding some brand new shadow models to replace some of the reskins, and give the new types and skills to a variety. Of course, the models would have to be appropriate to the themes of Persona 3, but just think about it. A new bundle of shadows would be a breath of new life into the game, and making fighting all the more exciting. Alright, so we got some new interesting designs for Tartarus, a nice crisp music to go along with it, and a huge variety of enemies. So what else is there to do? Well, since we're already giving our enemies new skills, it wouldn't make sense not to fix up some of our teammates either. Considering that the Persona 3 school trip is the big side of all of them, and it was the first time they were trying out the idea in Persona 3, it makes sense why some of the templates kinda cross over each other. Seriously though, Ken is just Akihiko with pierce damage and some heals, Aigus does way more punching than Akihiko ever does, and Koromari just kinda exists in his own dog universe. Personally, I think the best plan would be to give Aigis nuclear damage spells and to give Ken psychic damage. The nuke fits the aesthetic of Aigis being a toaster, and the psychic skills are really strong, and Ken is one of the last teammates you get, so it's appropriate. As for the actual AI, I wouldn't want it to change too much. You can already take direct control from them in some of the remakes and newer games. And the AI would definitely be improved because we understand how to make AI smarter than we did back in 2006. I think it could be worthwhile to give the player more options to make your teammates do specific actions. Just like how you can force them to split up and run away or fight shadows or even look for loot. Maybe there could be an option to make them find secrets in Tartarus, or during fights have them do an action like how you do in Persona 5's dungeons. All of these are just ideas, though. I would be perfectly happy if they just gave the characters new skills, though. So, for this section, I just wanted to be a little bit nitpicky about Toffee, but I guess the purpose of this video was to be nitpicky with the problems in it. So... Fatigue is a stupid concept and it should either be taken out of the game or just fixed to make something more enjoyable. Seriously, it had no purpose. Requests should vary more instead of just being go in and save the person. Seriously, they were so boring and gave no incentive to the game. Also, why does nobody ever talk during Tartarus? Sure, you can go talk to people, but that takes up time and it also is just out of the way in this already super long tower. Why isn't it like Mementos where characters can just talk to each other and interact and, make the entire road trip a little bit, nicer?
What do you think? Isn't my ride the best?
If only it didn't shake so much. Let me concentrate on my stomach.
God damn it, Yusuke. Why are you the best? I don't really know what to say about the clock. Is it good? Is it bad? It just kind of exists? Like, I don't know. I don't know, man. The clock just makes no sense. Then we got shuffle time. I don't understand it too much. Why is it a weird mini game? It shouldn't be more akin to Persona 4's aesthetic, where you get to choose. Maybe you play a small mini game for a deck, and you can use that deck to play the Persona 4 shuffle time mini game. I didn't really understand why it was just randomly generated in the way that it was. But once again, this is all just very nitpicky territory, so maybe these aren't the strongest opinions. Well, that wraps it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed my super opinionated video about tartar sauce. I don't know if you agreed or disagreed with any of my opinions, but please tell me. As my first video, I was really excited to do it about Persona 3. Maybe I'll make a sequel about the social link side of Persona 3? Who knows? Well, I hope you enjoyed.